this stuff ain't over for me. I'll just take it as, with a hat and just have a great old time with it. He just went to watch the horror movie, got bored, and then went into the anime room, watched it for a while, and probably playing a game right now. As far as myself, I've been watching different types of anime. I just finished watching Maid Sama, and then our library, I've been helping them get anime, suggesting different titles, and I just finished up the third voyage of One Piece, which I'm going like, okay, I'm kind of glad I did tell them to get that anime, because it's not a bad anime. It's pretty good. It's got some good moral stuff in it. People were a little bit shy at first, go like One Piece, Robert, going, yeah, get One Piece. It's a nice one for kids to watch and wouldn't be too rough on them. A bit of a story. The first time they wanted to pick up anime, and this is when we had VHS tapes, they were going to pick up the original Ghost in the Shell movie. I'm going like, no, you don't want to pick up the first Ghost in the Shell movie. There's nudity in it. There's violence. I can see it right now. Mama takes that tape home, slips it in there, and says, okay, we're going to watch this movie. And the next thing you know, we'll have a parent really very upset. So the first thing I did, I said, let me suggest some titles for you that would not be too offensive. So the first one I went and I told them to pick up was Sister Princess, a story about Waterloo Minikani, who for some reason fails his exam over in Japan, but he gets accepted into the school called Promise Island. He gets there and he finds out, I don't have one sister, I've got 13 sisters that I didn't even know existed. And you're going like, and they're all younger than him, and because he's the oldest brother. And the only thing bad about this is all the sisters want to get to know him. And so they're imagine yourself, you got 13 sisters that really want your attention, not day in, day out. There's this one little episode that's called Emailing Big Brother, where he's corresponding with this person he found by accident. All the sisters start wanting to get on the act and want to start emailing him. Imagine one day you come up and you got, oh great, 13 emails at one time. So it's a very little fun series. Then I suggested one called Kaleidostar, which is about this young woman who, Kaleidostar is a stage, is a performance acting troupe. And this young woman was very impressed by the performance when she was a young girl. She decided she wants to go to America and be an actress upon the Kaleidostar stage. And had 2 seasons. It was done by the same director who worked on Sailor Moon. So we had a veteran director, doing this series called Kaleidostar. And I'm going like, that's a good one for, to get the Rowan Public Library. And then I suggested a movie. And it was done by Hayao Miyazaki. And Hayao Miyazaki is, to me, a Rembrandt. When you see his movies, you can tell it's his movies. It's got a style that just, is out there. I can never say enough about Hayao Miyazaki. He's one of the, like I said, a Rembrandt when you see his stories. So I went and suggested Nausicaa Valley of the Winds, which was one of his early ones, and then I suggested Whispers of the Heart, and then The Cat's Return, and then Castle in the Sky. I mean, these are all wonderful Miyazaki films. Spirited Away, also too, that was another one I suggested. And then I suggested one that was sort of like off the beat a little bit. Still a family feature, and it's called Junkers Come Here. It's about a magical Irish setter who's helping out this poor girl whose parents are about ready to get a divorce. He's a magical dog. And it's just a wonderful, nice home story. And then I said, well, we need to go and get some type of horror type of story, because we don't have that in the Rowan Public Library. And the best one that I didn't want to get one that was too graphic, but I wanted to get a good story. So I suggested Witch Hunter Robin. We went and we bought the entire Witch Hunter Robin box set. And Witch Hunter Robin was played on the Cartoon Network. I knew what pretty much the story was, so I suggested that because it's more like an X-File type of story, but it's got enough horror in it that would keep a person interested. And then the next horror story I suggested after that was Vampire Princess Mew, the TV series. I didn't want him to get the OVA because the OVA is very violent, but the TV series is the watered-down version of it. And so I suggested getting Vampire Princess Mew, the TV series. I tried to keep it pretty much wholesome stories, and I do admit I made one or two mistakes at times. You know, I watch something and go like, I wish I didn't suggest this one because I didn't realize that up above the story here we got this scene right here. I'm going like, that's a bit rough, but you know, I can live with it. That happened with Carigani Communications. I mean, you go and you have this girl waking up and the Earth's been trashed, some sort of disaster, and she's thinking she's the last human on Earth, and there's these really friendly robots. They've been built by man, taking care of this child who's about 4 years old, and they're going through these adventures until they find the only surviving boy on the planet. And I don't want to give too much away, but it's a very good series called Carigani Communications. And I highly recommend it, put out by Media Blasters. There have been stories I wish I could suggest to Rowan Public Library to get, but there's too much nudity in it. And I go like, I've got to be very careful, you know, not to upset too many people. Like, there's this one anime, it's called The Magic Knights of Ray Earth. There's just nudity in the opening credits, but if you actually watched it, the rest of the story, there isn't really very much, there's no nudity at all. But it's a very nice little adventure series about these three girls that get transferred to a planet called Sabiro. And they go on a quest to become the Magic Knights. And there's about 2 seasons of it, and then there's a short little OVA, which wasn't, the OVA I kind of felt wasn't quite as well done. I mean, the animation was nice, but it changed the story too much. I like the original Magic Knights of Ray Earth and then Magic Knights of Ray Earth 2, the two TV series. And that's some things happen. There are stories where I go like, you know, if only, you know, you could just get rid of some of the nudity in the opening credits, they'd be nice to watch on TV, you know, get by with it just with a little editing. I felt like that with Brainpower, because when you watch Brainpower, you look like you're reading something from the 1950s as far as science fiction storytelling, but there's just nudity in front of the credits.
Why do you suppose there's so much difference in the way credits are handled versus the way the actual show is? Like, for instance, you watch the intro to, I'm about, this isn't a really extreme example, like Mushishi, that still hate song, which is, you know, little song, but it's like a love song. Mushishi has nothing to do with romance or Holly or Chigu with the weird fruit, you know, they don't have anything to do with the show. What you're talking about, the nudity in front of that one, doesn't have anything to do with the show. Why do you think that so many of them have an opening credit scene, which just seems so random compared to the show?
Well, you have to also understand the line of Japanese thinking, too. The Japanese look at nudity not as a taboo. Over here in the United States, we kind of, you know, look at nudity as a taboo sort of subject. They're more, their society is a little more open to, you know, nudity than I'd say we were be over here in the United States. It used to not be like that, but, you know, over the period of time, we're Americans, we have censorship laws. Not to say that Japan has always been that great. Japan is not a utopia society. They have the largest teen suicide rate in the whole world. They're still outranking as far as teen suicides. It's not a perfect society, but I think that, you know, they have certain things that they feel like, well, that's more comfortable watching that the way that is than the way we see things. It's like this. There was one series called Title Line Blue, and I had to deal with this little subject. In the anime, the woman is feeding her child breastfeeding. Now, the question then becomes this, is that acceptable behavior or not? Now, back during my great-grandfather's time, I have heard this happening. A woman would go behind a building and breastfeed her child, you know. And little kid may go up and see a woman breastfeeding a kid. So what? They have been times, controversies over here in the United States. Woman breastfeeding a child out in public. Is that acceptable behavior or not? And it's been a controversy back and forth about these things, what is acceptable and what is not. It's your point of moral values. That's why I run an adult anime club. It's not that I can't show children's stuff, but there are stuff that I go like, all right, it's questionable as far as morals. Let's say in the great teacher Onizuka's case, the students tried blackmailing him. And so what he does, he says, okay, you try to blackmail me, I'm going to find you, these three punks who were, part of a little gang. He goes, he beats them up, an adult, beats these kids up, and then ties them up and then he dumps them into a lake. He says, okay, if I don't become a teacher, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do you even 10 times worse than that. But these guys were street thugs. And you go like, all right, here's the drama. When do you take the law into your own hands? Sort of deal. You've always heard about Robin Hood gave from the rich and gave to the poor. Really, that's stealing. But that's not what the story of Robin Hood's about. Robin Hood was fighting a dictatorship, a government that was corrupt. The same thing for Zorro. He was fighting a corrupt government. So it's really the type of moral message that you want to try to give out to people that really comes down to the matter of that question. Is it